So, DFS sports betting spin on the latest NFL news, the latest NFL headlines. So, as we talked about yesterday, it is that time of year where a lot of coaches and GMs are throwing their support, their confidence behind their current starting quarterback, right?
Much confidence.
So, yesterday it was the Dolphins' new coach, Mike McDaniel, saying Tua has some untapped skills that he's excited for. Again, we can't be sure if it's simply because there aren't that many quarterbacks truly on the market, especially with GM Chris Greer closing the door on Deshaun Watson to Miami. So whatever the case, how do you feel about Tua's fantasy potential in McDaniel's system? What do we think, Geoff?
Yeah, I mean, tons of untapped potential might be stretching it a little bit, but at the same time, McDaniels is a dude who obviously has worked under Kyle Shanahan his entire career. He's probably going to come in, run some kind of similar, wide zone run scheme to Kyle Shanahan. He's probably going to have some kind of West Coast offense with a lot of just sort of short slants, short passing plays. And I think that Tua, the one thing he's proven, he can be pretty accurate in the right type of system. Is he a good downfield passer? No, he had 13 attempts of 20 plus yards last year. I don't really think that's going to change, but if Mike McDaniel, who's obviously, kind of the talk of the town right now, isn't really going to do that and have this big, like Bruce Arians push it down the field scheme, he probably does see some untapped potential into a Tagliabue. And look, stability is a big thing. We touched on it yesterday with head coaches. It's the same with quarterbacks. He's got a third-year QB here in Tua. Took a little bit of step up in certain categories last year. Wasn't a huge one, but no, I think there's something to it. At the same time, there's obviously a little bit of hyperbole in saying there's tons of untapped potential as well.
Okay, Steve, what do we think? Are you feeling all the untapped potential?
I mean, I think that's a little bit of a stretch when you talk about untapped potential, but I mean, I think it's fair to say that this was a shaky year for the Dolphins overall. I mean, that team was absolutely ravaged by injuries. It felt like since day one. Then they had that unbelievable second half where all of a sudden it looked like they were going to be making the playoffs. Obviously, Tua missed a handful of games during the season as well, so that was a factor as well. If this team can actually stay healthy, if they can actually get some protection in front of Tua, I think we can actually start to see more of him. Everybody is so quick that they just want to drop Tua. Oh, we're done with him already. We need to get somebody else. Who are you going to get? Who are you going to go out and get? That's the problem there. This isn't a strong class you draft a quarterback in. There's not a lot of suitors that you can go to and get like a legit QB1. What are you going to do? Get Sam Darnold? What are you going to do? Get Kirk Cousins? Like, that's not going to be the answer there. You have Tua. You go with Tua. If it doesn't work out after this year, then fine. Maybe we can start talking about moving in another direction. But I think in the new system here that they're going to be getting, I think it's worth taking a look at Tua, at least in the first half of the season, see what we can get out of him from here.
All right, Pierce, how do we feel about this?
Yeah, I don't trust these young genius coordinators, but I am impressed with his adaptability. San Francisco had the fourth best offense when you adjust for defense last season, and they didn't really have a great quarterback. And so McDaniel adjusted the offense. They worked plays to Deebo Samuel in creative ways. They leaned on a good offensive line. They leaned on a good run attack, and they found ways to be a good offense. So he's going to have to adjust again and adapt to the bad offensive line that Steve just mentioned. And, I mean, if he can figure that out, they've got the pass catchers in Miami. Tua can absolutely have the big numbers. And if Duke Johnson is still going to be their number one running back, they could be passing the ball 75% of the time. They may not win any games, but for fantasy purposes, Tua is going to get so much volume in action, and it's probably going to be a short passing game, but that could work with Waddle. So I think fantasy-wise, I feel pretty comfortable. Now, in terms of making playoffs, not so much.
All right, let's stick in the AFC, though, here. We talked a little bit about Ryan Tannehill yesterday, while the Titans have essentially committed to Tannehill for the next year. They're still meeting with some of the top quarterbacks at the Combine. There's a lot of quarterback intrigue here for this team over the next few weeks. How should the Titans approach Tannehill and all of these quarterbacks in the draft? Not that it's a very strong quarterback draft class, Steve.
Allegedly, it's not.
So, this always kills me, right? Oh, the Titans have met with some of the quarterbacks. Look, every team is doing their due diligence. If Mike Trout was a free agent right now, the Orioles would meet with him. Is Mike Trout going to the Orioles? No, he's not. All the teams are doing their due diligence on what they should be doing. The Titans have way more glaring holes on their team than quarterback. They need quarterbacks. First and foremost, there was no problem going downfield against the Titans through the air. They need linebackers. They need defensive help all around. Is quarterback an area that maybe they can address later in the draft? Absolutely. There's nothing wrong with doing that. But for them to go out and draft a quarterback in the first round, that would be egregious. They absolutely cannot afford to do that. They need to upgrade in so many other spots. How about even maybe a wide receiver? All these guys are breaking records at the 40-yard dash. All these speedy wide receivers that are going this year. There's so many other positions they need to address. Tannehill is obviously not the long-term answer, but he's fine in the short term. They should not be drafting a quarterback in the first round.
Yeah, whoever is controlling the 40-yard dash clock there at the Combine was hammering the unders this year. There's no doubt about that. Pearce, if they take a quarterback in the first round, should they trade up to get the best guy? I mean, because a lot of these dudes are going to slip to them.
I don't think anyone is going to slip. I believe that this quarterback class is just going to get hyped up more and more and more, and you're going to have to pay up for them. I'm not sure if that's the route to go, but I do believe that they need to get rid of Tannehill. I mean, you put the Colts side by side with the Titans, these teams are very similar. And what do we say about the Colts? They're not going anywhere with Carson Wentz. Well, maybe the Titans make it to the playoffs with Tannehill, but like we said all last season, they weren't going anywhere in the playoffs, and they didn't. And the same thing is going to happen. So you might as well move him now, move him while his value is at its highest. We've been talking about the supply of quarterbacks being low, the demand is high. You're never going to get a better asking price right now. I don't know if you're going to get a second round or a first round pick for him, but you can get something for him. And what I would really be targeting is Tyler Huntley. Why are we not talking more about Tyler Huntley? I think he could be a starting quarterback. He's definitely more ready to go than anybody in the draft. He's better than any of these free agents. I don't know how you work that deal. You have to work in some other teams. But the Titans and other teams should be looking at Baltimore's backup.
All right, Geoff, is Tannehill going to be in this Jimmy Garoppolo type spot this year if they go with the quarterback in the first round too?
Yeah, I mean, they could be. I mean, he will be if they do end up going through the draft, right? I mean, if they end up breaking Steve's heart and taking a quarterback in the first round or even in the second round, I mean, I think it will be that kind of spot for Tannehill. I mean, look, we mentioned some of the players out there. Desmond Ridder tested really well. Maybe they look at Malik Willis and just try and get a ton of athleticism and just try and hammer teams with the run with Henry and Willis back there. But I think Pearce is actually right. I mean, I think the Titans are a pretty solid team. Maybe they have a few holes on defense, but their defense really toughened up last year. And look, they were the number one seed in the AFC. This team isn't that far off, but none of these rookie quarterbacks. Are you telling me the Titans are going to draft a rookie and then just start him over Ryan Tannehill? The 49ers picked a guy in the top 5 last year and didn't even do that. So there's no way any of these draft picks are coming in and just replacing Ryan Tannehill. If you want to replace Ryan Tannehill, Pearce is correct. You need to go on the free agent market. Tyler Huntley, Mitch Trubisky. People can laugh all they want. Both of those players have better upside than Ryan Tannehill. And if you can somehow construct their career or just get more potential out of them, they will probably have a better chance of dragging the Titans a step further in the playoffs. So I like that idea too. But the real answer is there's no easy options for the Titans unless they're going to make a play for Russell Wilson or Aaron Rodgers. They're probably just stuck with going with Tannehill, maybe making a gamble in the draft and seeing how that works out.
Jeff.
Yes.
You mentioned Mitch Trubisky and upside in the same sentence. Was that on purpose?
There'll be no Mitch Trubisky slander while I'm on the show.
All right. Oh, my God. This isn't Madden, bro. This isn't Madden Mitch we're talking about, where you can just run for 100 yards a game. This is real life, Geoff.
All right, guys.
All right.
Jeff, did you want to add something?
I just wanted to say, Jesse, that I'm excited for whichever team decides to take the opportunity to have Mitch Trubisky on their team. They're going to become a top 3 team for me right off the bat. So very excited for that.
I love that for you,
in
Jeff.
Buffalo, he's a real man now.
Love that for you, Jeff. All right, guys, moving on. Carolina Panthers GM Scott Fitterer said that they'll most likely go with the best available option at 6 in the draft, and they'll be aggressive in their quarterback search. So looking at every option around the league, that would be aggressive. So how aggressive would it be taking a quarterback at 6, and who would it be? Do you want to read the hand sizes? I know you've been very excited about this, Emerson.
Yeah, so Malik Willis's hand size, 9.5 inches, which is like what mine was. We measured before the show.
We did measure Emerson's hands before the show.
9.5, and then Jesse, you were around 7.5-ish, right?
Yeah, it was a lot smaller.
Okay.
Matt Corral's 9 5/8. Desmond Ridder, 10-inch hands. So that's
Bam.
probably the 3 in the running, right? What do we think, Pearce? It's also kind of complicated, the quarterback situation, because Panthers are on the hook for $18.9 million guaranteed.
Is that Darnold?
After they picked up Darnold's 5th-year option last offseason.
Hand sizes, darts, Mitch Trubisky. We really need games to start back.
Yeah, it's only going to get weirder, man.
Yeah, it is. But I think this is a perfect example. If we're just talking about all kinds of things, and that talk is just going to keep happening with these quarterbacks, the more that we go over them, it's not going to look like, it looks like a stretch right now to take any of these quarterbacks with the 6th pick. But as we spend the next 2 months going over it and over it, and as these agents drop stories into the media and work the GMs, by the time we get to the draft, and we're already seeing like 4 quarterbacks are projected to go in the top 15, they're going to keep getting more hype. I mean, the hype train's just now leaving the station. It's going to get worse. And by the time the draft rolls around, they might be lucky to get a quarterback with the 6th pick. If you're in the top 5, this is a great opportunity to trade down to a team that's desperate for a quarterback. I'm looking at you, Jacksonville. Trade down and stack your team.
Ooh.
Yeah, that's okay.
Good advice.
Whoa.
Jeff, what do we think?
Yeah, trade down, sign Mitch Trubisky, and your problems will be solved. But no, the Jacksonville won't do that. It won't be the Mitch train. But we've already seen it, right? If you're on Twitter last night, what did we see? We saw Malik Willis throwing the ball about 80 yards in the combine. That's fantastic, except he missed the receiver by like 10 yards, right? So, anyways, I mean, it is. Someone's definitely going in the top 5 here. I don't know if it's going to be Malik Wilson yet. Matt Corral is getting talked up a little bit. One of the dudes, the Titans side, Sam Howell, was getting talked up as well. Desmond Ridder testing off the charts. Here's the thing about the Carolina Panthers. They should have taken the quarterback last year. Why didn't they take Justin Fields? I mean, it's just that this team it's absolutely out to lunch that now they're thinking about taking a quarterback. Now, when the draft class is clearly weaker, they're now on the hook for Darnold. Now, like, oh yeah, I think we'll take a quarterback now. I almost just don't want to talk about the Panthers. It's so ridiculous how they've handled their quarterback situation. And they probably will take a quarterback at 6 now because they've left themselves with no options. They've paid to see Sam Darnold, and they don't like what they see, and they've backed themselves into a corner. So they're another team. Could be in the Mitch Trubisky sweepstakes, but from all accounts, it sounds like they're going draft this year, which is obviously the most backwards thing considering where they were last year in the draft.
Steve, do you think it's very backwards to pick up a quarterback in the draft? Also, Cam Newton, unrestricted free agent. They could possibly bring him back.
That sounds great.
I'm back.
Mitch Trubisky, Cam Newton. Let's just throw that idiot Nick Foles in the mix as well.
Yeah.
I mean, here's the thing. Like, these guys keep talking about, there's a good chance that a quarterback's going to go in the top 5. So I want to present this question to Jeff. Which team is taking a quarterback in the top 5? Like, which one of those teams is taking it? Maybe Houston, but I feel like they feel like Davis Mills is the guy. So I don't think – so you tell me, which team is taking a quarterback in the top 5? Because I don't see a team.
No, I think there'd be a trade. I definitely agree. I don't see a clear path for any of the teams in the top 5 right now to take quarterback, but – I definitely think that one of those teams will be smart enough to accept a trade and trade back. So
I mean, if anything,
and Houston could be one of them. Houston is definitely one of them. Like I think you're right. There's no better option than Davis Mills in this quarterback class, or at least not by leaps and bounds, right? So I think Houston is a very viable trade candidate.
Like the way I see it right now, the first team that legitimately needs a quarterback other than the Panthers is probably the Broncos at 9. Then you got Washington at 11, and then maybe even Minnesota at 12. Those could be the teams in the top 15 who are in the running for a quarterback. So if anything, Carolina might be able to trade back and still get their quarterback. I think that's how this scenario should go down because Carolina should not be picking a quarterback at number 6. There's other talented guys that should be going at 6 other than a quarterback. So I think that Carolina could potentially trade back, still get their quarterback. But let me tell you, they need the quarterback. Sam Darnold is not the answer. 3 games of glory. That's what Sam Darnold's legacy is going to go down as a Carolina Panther. The first 3 games, and then he turned into Sam Darnold once again. He didn't see ghosts. He turned into one. That's what the legacy of Sam Darnold is going to go down as. They should trade back, still get their quarterback, but they should absolutely be trying to get one.